Are you, Liv? Are you ready to go, Liv?
Livy?
And howdy, everyone. Howdy, Lynn. Howdy, Landon. Howdy, Matt.
What's up?
Or is it Matt and Landon?
Either way.
Or is it Landon and Lynn? Okay, I got a new toy. Anyways, welcome, everybody. And we should be getting another reader here momentarily. That means in just a moment. Anyways, how's everybody doing today?
Good.
Chipper?
Chipper?
Okay.
How are you doing today?
I am doing fine. Pizza for breakfast? Bean burritos wore off? I'm
Pizza.
Class A shape. Howdy, Sky. Howdy, GR. All right. Oh, wow. I got 8 watching already. Goodness. Anybody need prayers today? Other than for burned fingers? Negative?
John just had his surgery.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, he could always use some. Everything he's going through.
Pray for a quick recovery. Yeah, that lox and bagels, disgusting. Oh my gosh. Good morning, fish breath. Okay. Anyways. All right. The more people, the merrier. So let's go ahead and pray in. Good morning, Father. Thank you very much for this beautiful day to fellowship. We're very grateful for it. And we would ask that you help remove the scales off our eyes and let us see what is truly in your word for us to learn, and without putting on the presuppositions that we've learned from the world's church system that guides us in the wrong direction. And we ask for your blessing today upon everybody here now or in the future. We ask for quick healing and relief on people with burned hands, and also for John to recover quickly from surgery. And we thank you for that, and put your blessing and healing on all of us that need it. Thank you. In Jesus Yeshua's name, amen. All right, look at that. How's that? How's that for Mandela effect, huh? Okay. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning. Still making my coffee.
Oh, okay. Not a problem. Not a problem. All right. So, everybody, this is where I'll be reading from, KingJamesBibleOnline.org, 1611 Bible. Just as a reminder, this is a study series of the Word, putting the lamp out in sight for all to see it and to guide in the darkness. All who are seeking their Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, through the confession of Jesus Christ, that is, are welcome here. Okay, so what are we reading today? Hey, there's this Landon dude in there. Okay. Anyways, today we're starting with 2 Kings, chapter 3, going through 4, 5, 6, and 7. Any objections? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. 2 Kings chapter 3. Let's roll. I can't believe I said that. Okay. 2 Kings chapter 3. Now, Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel and Samaria in the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years. And he wrought evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and like his mother, for he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom. And Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. But it came to pass, when Ahab was dead, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. And King Joram went out of Samaria at the same time, and numbered all Israel. And he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, saying, The king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses. And he said, Which way shall we go up? And he answered, The way through the wilderness of Edom. So the king of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom, and they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey, and there was no water for the host, and for the cattle that followed them. And the king of Israel said, Alas, that the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord, that we may inquire of the Lord by him? And one of the king of Israel's servants answered and said, Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah. Verse 12. Jehoshaphat said, The word of the Lord is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, What have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, Nay, for the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. And Elisha said, As the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely, were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee nor see thee. But now bring me a minstrel. And it came to pass, when the minstrel played, that the hand of the Lord came upon him. And he said, Thus saith the Lord, Make this valley full of ditches. For thus saith the Lord, You shall not see wind, neither shall you see rain. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that you may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts. And this is but a light thing in the sight of the Lord. For he will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. And ye shall smite every fenced city, and every choice city, and shall fell every good tree, and stop all wells of water, and mar every good piece of land with stones. And it came to pass in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, that, behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. And when all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against them, they gathered all that were able to put on armor and upward, and stood in the border. And they rose early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water. And the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood. Verse 23. And they said, This is blood. The kings are surely slain, and they have smitten one another. Now therefore are Moab to the spoil. And when they came to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they went forward, smiting the Moabites, even in their country. And they beat down the cities, and on every good piece of land cast every man his stone, and filled it. And they stopped all the wells of water, and felled all the good trees. Only in Kir Hareseth left they the stones thereof, howbeit the slingers went about it and smote it. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords, to break through even unto the king of Edom. But they could not. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was great indignation against Israel. And they departed from him and returned to their own land.
Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant, my husband, is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. And Elisha said to her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house, save a pot of oil. Then he said, Go borrow thee vessels abroad from all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and thou shalt pour out into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of God, and he said, Go sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem. There was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that as oft he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread. And she said unto her husband, Behold now, I perceive that this is a holy man of God, which passeth by us continually. Let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, when he cometh to us, that he shall turn in thither. Chapter 11. And it fell on a day that he came thither, and he turned into the chamber, and lay there. And he said to Gehazi his servant, Call this Shunammite. And when he called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, Say now unto her, Behold, thou hast been careful with us for all this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldest thou be spoken for to the king or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among my own people. And he said, What then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, Verily, she hath no child, and her husband is old. And he said, Call her. And when he had called her, she stood at the door. And he said, About this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said to him, Nay, my lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thine handmaiden. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season that Elijah had said to her, according to the time of life. And when the child was grown, it fell upon a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. And he said unto his father, My head, my head. And he said to the lad, Carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat upon her knees till noon, and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, and shut the door upon him, and went out. And she called upon her husband, and said, Send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God, and come again. And he said, Wherefore wilt thou go to him today? Is it neither new moon nor Sabbath? And she said, It shall be well. Then she saddled an ass, and said to her servant, Drive, and go forward, slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee. Verse 25. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her far off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, Behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, Is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with thy child? And she answered, It is well. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of God said, Let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her. And the Lord hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. Then she said, Did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, Do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, Gird up thy loins, and take thy staff in thy hand, and go thy way. And if thou meet any man, salute him not. And if any man salute thee, answer him not again, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her. And Gehazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child. But there was neither voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again to meet him, and told him, saying, The child is not awakened. And when Elisha came into the house, behold, the child was dead, and laid upon his bed. And he went in therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Lord. And he went up and lay upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. 35. Then he returned and walked to the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her, and when she was come unto him, he said, Take up thy son. Then she went in and fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and took up her son, and went out. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, Set on the great pot, and seat the pottage for the sons of the prophet. And one And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So they poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of God, there is death in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. But he said, Then bring meal. And he cast it into the pot, and he said, Pour out for the people that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot. And there came a man from Baal Shalisha, and brought the man of God bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. And he said, Give unto the people that they may eat. And his servitor said, What should I set this before 100 men? He said again, Give the people that they may eat. And thus saith the Lord, They shall eat and shall leave thereof. So he set it before them, and they did eat and left thereof according to the word of the Lord.
Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favor, because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. Now the Syrians, on one of their raids, had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, Would that my lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy. So Naaman went in and told his lord. Thus and So Naaman went in and told his lord. Thus and so spoke the girl from the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel. So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you Naaman my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy. And when the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Only consider and see how he is seeking a quarrel with me. But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king, saying, Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come now to me, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel. So Naaman came with his horses and chariots and stood at the door of Elisha's house. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean. But Naaman was angry and went away, saying, Behold, I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call upon the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hand over the place and cure the leper. And not Abna and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than the waters of Israel. Could I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage. But his servants came near and said to him, My father, it is a great word the prophet has spoken to you. Will you not do it? Has he not actually said to you, Wash and be clean? So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God. And his flesh was restored like the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. 15. Then he returned to the man of God, he and all his company. And he came and stood before him, and he said, Behold, I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. So accept now a present from your servant. But he said, As the Lord lives, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. And then Naaman said, If not, please let there be given to your servant 2 mules, If not, please let there be given to your servant two mule loads of earth. For from now on your servant will not offer burnt offerings or sacrifices to any god but the Lord. In this matter may the Lord pardon your servant. When my master goes into the house of Rimmon to worship there, leaning on my arm, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon your servant in this matter. He said to him, Go in peace. But when Naaman had gone from him a short distance, Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, See, my master has spared this Naaman the Syrian, in not accepting from his hand what he brought. As the Lord lives, I will run after him and get something from him. So Gehazi followed Naaman. And when Naaman saw someone running after him, he got down from the chariot to meet him and said, Is all well? And he said, All is well. My master has sent me to say, There have just now come to me from the hill country of Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of clothing. And Naaman said, Be pleased to accept 2 talents. And he urged him and tied up 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of clothing and laid them on 2 of his servants. And they carried them before Gehazi. And when he came to the hill, he took them from their hand and put them in the house. And he sent the men away, and they departed. He went in and stood before his master, and Elisha said to him, Where have you been, Gehazi? And he said, Your servant went nowhere. But he said to him, Did not my heart go when the man turned from his chariot to meet you? Was it a time to accept money and garments, olive orchards and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male servants and female servants? Therefore the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and to your descendants forever. So he went out from his presence a leper, like snow.
You're muted, Michelle.
One second here, sorry.
Your turn, Matt. Oh,
Okay.
here we go.
Okay, so 2 Kings 6. Sorry, I have family stuff here going on. Okay, the floating axe head. And the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, See now, the place where we dwell with you is too small for us. Please let us go to the Jordan, and let every man take a beam from there, and let us make there a place where we may dwell. So he answered, Go. Then one said, Please consent to go with your servants. And he answered, I will go. So he went with them, and when they came to the Jordan, they cut down trees. But as one was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water, and he cried out and said, Alas, master, for it was borrowed. So the man of God said, Where did it fall? And he showed him the place. So he cut off a stick and threw it in there, and he made the iron float. Therefore he said, Pick it up for yourself. So he reached out his hand and took it. Now the king of Syria was making war against Israel, and he consulted with his servants, saying, My camp will be in such and such a place. And the man of God sent to the king of Israel, saying, Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are coming down there. Then the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him. Thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was greatly troubled by this thing, and he called his servants and said to them, Will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, None, my lord, O king, but Elisha, the prophet, who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. So he said, Go and see where he is, that I may send and get him. And it was told him, saying, Surely he is in Dothan. Therefore he sent horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. And when the servants of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, Alas, my master, what shall we do? So he answered, Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, Strike this people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elijah. Now Elisha said to them, This is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. So it was when they had come to Samaria that Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and there they were, inside Samaria. Now when the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, My father, shall I kill them? Shall I kill them? But he answered, You shall not kill them. Would you kill those whom you have taken captive with your sword and your bow? Set food and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. Then he prepared a great feast for them, and after they ate and drank, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of Syrian raiders came no more into the land of Israel. And it happened after this that Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, gathered all his army and went up and besieged Samaria. And there was a great famine in Samaria, and indeed they besieged it until a donkey's head was sold for 80 shekels of silver, and 1/4 of a cab of dove droppings for 5 shekels of silver. Then, as the king of Israel was passing by on the wall, a woman cried out to him, saying, Help, my lord, O king. And he said, If the Lord does not help you, where can I find help for you? From the threshing floor or from the winepress? Then the king said to her, What is troubling you? And she answered, This woman said to me, Give your son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So we boiled my son and ate him, and I said to her on the next day, Give your son, that we may eat him, but she has hidden her son. Now it happened, when the king heard the words of the woman, that he tore his clothes, and as he passed by on the wall, the people looked, and there underneath he had sackcloth on his body. And then he said, God, do so to me, and more also, if the head of Elisha the son of Shaphat remains on him today. But Elisha was sitting in his house, and the elders were sitting with him. And the king sent a man ahead of him, but before the messenger came to him, he said to the elders, Do you see how this son of a murderer has sent someone to take away my head? Look, when the messenger comes, shut the door and hold him fast at the door. Is not the sound of his master's feet behind him? And while he was still talking with them, there was the messenger coming down to him. And then the king said, Surely this calamity is from the Lord. Why should I wait for the Lord any longer?
Chapter 7. Then Elisha said, Listen to the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord, Tomorrow about this time a measure of fine flour will be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, in the gate of Samaria. The royal officer on whose hand the king was leaning answered the man of God and said, Behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, could this thing be? Then he said, Behold, you will see it with your own eyes, but you will not eat of it. Now there were 4 leprous men at the entrance of the gate, and they said to one another, Why do we sit here until we die? If we say, We will enter the city, and then the famine is in the city, and we will die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Now therefore, come, and let us go over to the camp of the Arameans. If they spare us, we will live, and if they kill us, we will but die. They arose at twilight to go to the camp of the Arameans. When they came to the outskirts of the camp, the Arameans, behold, there was no one there. For the Lord had caused the army of the Arameans to hear a sound of chariots and the sound of horses, even the sound of a great army, so that they said to one another, Behold, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Therefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their donkeys, even the camp just as it was, and fled for their life. When these lepers came to the outskirts of the camp, they entered one tent and ate and drank and carried from there silver and gold and clothes, and went and hid them. And they returned and entered another tent and carried from there also, and went and hid them. Then they said to one another, "We are not doing right. This day is a day of good news, but we are keeping silent. If we wait until morning light, punishment will overtake us. Now therefore come, let us go and tell the king's household." So they came and called to the gatekeepers of the city, and they told them, saying, "We came to the camp of the Armenians, and behold, there was no one there, nor the voice of a man, only horses tied and donkeys tied, and the tents just as they were." The gatekeepers called and told it within the king's household. Then the king arose in the night and said to his servants, "I will now tell you what the Armenians have done to us. They know that we are hungry, therefore they have gone from the camp to hide themselves in the field, saying, 'When they come out of the city, we will capture them alive and get into the city.' One of his servants said, 'Please let some men take 5 of the horses which remain, which are left in the city. Behold, they will be in any case like all the multitude of Israel who are left in it. Behold, they will be in any case like all the multitude of Israel who have already perished, so let us send and see.' They took therefore 2 chariots with horses, and the king sent after the army of the Armenians, saying, 'Go and see.' They went after them to the Jordan, and behold, all the way was full of clothes and equipment which the Armenians had thrown away in their haste. Then the messengers returned and told the king. So the people went out and plundered the camp of the Armenians. Then a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel, according to the word of the Lord. Now the king appointed the royal officer, on whose hand he leaned, to have charge of the gate. But the people trampled on him at the gate, and he died just as the man of God had said, who spoke when the king came down to him. It happened just as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel will be sold tomorrow about this time at the gate of Samaria. Then the royal officer answered the man of God and said, "Now behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, could such a thing be?" And he said, "Behold, you will see it with your own eyes, but you will not eat of it." And so it happened to him, for the people trampled on him at the gate, and he died.
Well, there's a whole bunch in this today, isn't there? Why, yes, Jonathan, there is. Okay. Glad to hear everyone in agreement there. So let's go back to 2 Kings chapter 3. And I didn't get any notes in that, but there was something I wanted to bring up. So whatever you got in chapter 3, go ahead and I'm sorry?
100,000 lambs is pretty industrious. Said
There's
100,000
that.
lambs.
And
is
then the
pretty
rams
industrious.
with the wool.
I can't even imagine. That's just such a large amount to deal with.
Right. Yeah, it's huge. In that, well, think about it too, though, the value, their value lies in their wool, unless you're eating them. So that's like giving someone the difference between giving someone a gold mine that's all mined out and giving them a gold mine that still has a bunch of gold in it. I don't know. That's the way I kind of see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. You know, the funny thing is, if there is somebody with 100,000 sheep these days, the way the world operates now, they would say, "Oh, he's so poor. He only makes $5 a month." Just quite the contrast. He only makes 5 of these paper dollars per month that he can feed his family with.
How many lambs can a sheep have in a year? And it's not like rabbits where they multiply exponentially, right? They only have maybe a couple a year.
one usually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's to give
Isn't
that.
there,
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
isn't a sheep's gestation period like 9 months, like a human?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We had sheep, and we got one out of 2 years. So
So that's not a small sacrifice to give that many.
yeah. It's funny though that when you read 100,000 sheep, it's a lot of farmers now are actually going back to that style of farming where they like mob graze like huge herds of animals, and they swear that it's actually way better for the land.
Hmm.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, as long as they don't take it down to nothing.
Yeah, got to move them.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of land, you know.
Right? Don't fence me in. All right. Anyways. Yeah, that was interesting. Cool, Landon. I noticed that as well.
A lot of
And then I noticed something later on. I'll keep scanning. If you got something else before later on, let me know.
Well, I have a question in 19. What do they mean, mar every good land with stone? Mar every good piece of land with stones.
That if you've worked land,
Mhm.
land with stones on it, it's no fun to work.
Well,
But that
wouldn't
actually, that actually got me thinking, along with verse 25 also. But I'll look up because I want to cross-reference it. But
Hard to plow through land that has stones in the dirt.
yeah, it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Imagine hitting a rock. Well,
I know what it's like with
Every man
lawnmower.
casts his stone.
I think you'd go flying forward. If you got oxen pulling it.
Is there no prophet of the Lord here that we may inquire of the Lord by him? We've seen that before, right? It's like, why aren't we asking the Lord?
Every man casts his stone.
So in Revelation 2, chapter 2, verse 17, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone. And in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. So I don't know why I'm making that connection there. It's kind of interesting. The stone, I think I was mixing that up with casting crowns. Everyone's going to cast their crown before the throne. Anyways, I thought that was interesting too. Before that, 19, though, I find it interesting that the king of Israel, and who was the other one? King of Edom, that their presence interferes, or it appears to interfere with Elisha being able to hear the Holy Spirit talking to him. And he says, bring a minstrel. Right? So once the guy starts playing music for him, then he can hear what's going on.
Makes me think of when King David, or when David would bring, play the music when King Saul was being tormented by the evil spirit, and he would be relieved. So it's something about the music bringing in the peace, if it's the right music. We certainly know music can be a channel for either good or evil.
Yep. Very neat. Very nifty. Okay. Anyways. Anything else from chapter 3? Anybody?
I'm just.
Chapter 20, or verse 27.
Yeah.
He burned up his son.
Yep. the king of Moab.
Last ditch effort.
The what?
It's last ditch effort to win.
Right.
Mhm.
In that day, many were proud they weren't the prince. All right, let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4. I don't have anything until verses 5 and 6. If you have anything before that.
Right now, are you guys going to read again?
No.
Well, I had another talk about.
Okay, then you can go.
So verses 5 and 6, we have this is the miracle of the oil, right? So the interesting thing we have here is pour out the oil. Fill up as many vessels with that oil as you got, as you're able to. Vessels of all different sizes and shapes. And who was it? Was it Matt or Landon? I think it was Matt. We were talking about a long time ago. Oil is equated with the Spirit of God.
Mhm.
Right? 7 lampstands before the throne.
Right? The 10 virgins.
Yep. But what happened with her vessel?
Just kept filling up.
It stayed full. Even when she poured it and filled all those other things with oil, it stayed full. Isn't that kind of how the Holy Spirit works? The more you give, the more you're full.
Mm-hmm.
Laundry soap. I always thanked him for the laundry soap when I went to do my laundry. And one time I couldn't afford it. So it just kept seeming like it was the same amount all the time for a long time. And then finally I had the money to go buy some, and that's when it ran out. It was like, okay, I'm not sure what's happening here, but this seems to be lasting for a long time.
Right?
It happened to me with the caulk. We were finishing the house, and a guy handed it to me. I had about that much left in the tube. It was almost at the end, and I got 3/4 of the way, and it was so much finished work to do. Got 3/4 of the way around the house until I realized, I'm like, because I was praying and listening to music, kind of worshiping and everything, and so in all that, like an hour and a half goes by, and by the time I realized it, I was like, what? And that's when it stopped. But as soon as I realized it, that was wild.
Our miraculous provider. Yeah. I think of Jesus in the water turning to wine, and also the bread and the fish being passed out, and it just kept going.
Yeah.
You can do it. Defies physics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't have anything till 17. Anybody got anything before there?
Nope.
No, Nat.
Think a lot about getting your hopes up, and not wanting to get your hopes up if you already know that you're going to be disappointed. I just can kind of relate to her saying that, why did you get my hopes up?
Right, the Shunammite woman.
Yeah.
I find it interesting because it talks about the time of life again. So this is again, we had Sarah and who else? There was someone else that was well stricken with age that had a child.
Well, Elizabeth, and then there was Hannah, who was having a hard time.
Right. In that now this woman, but I found it interesting. And it's kind of like, too, I see a correlation with, we're told we have the prophecy of the woman with the man child. Right. So Israel with Messiah being this child. And most of us are older when we come to a point where we realize I need, the Son of God, this child in my life, this Messiah. And I can't quite put it together, but there was something here with being older and having a child compared to being older and realizing we need to repent and come to salvation. I can hear Gwen from Canada now. Yeah.
I just think that she had accepted that she wasn't going to have children and that she just was going to serve the Lord, and that was how she was serving the Lord, by providing the space for Elisha.
Right.
Content with that in her heart. That,
Yep.
Like, why did the Lord do that and then take him and then give him back? It's just
Right. And that
turmoil. I can relate to that, just having dealt with a lot of miscarriages and the hopes up and down the roller coaster ride. It's like you just get to a point where you're like, I just don't want to have to go on that again.
Yeah. Well, verse 32 also, it's like real solid confirmation the child was dead. And so we have another resurrection here.
Mm-hmm.
What's with 7 sneezes in verse 35?
Can't really.
The child sneezed 7 times and then opened his eyes.
They say, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. God bless you.
And remember, before he died, he had a headache.
Aneurysm.
Yeah,
It was probably an aneurysm.
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
my head hurts.
Well, just think about like CPR, the motions and CPR are like kind of resuscitating somehow.
Right.
That movement helped to resuscitate him, maybe.
Yep. Well, I think it was all the spirit of Baba.
Mm-hmm.
Big day. All right. Anything else from 4?
23.
Okay.
You see, her husband says, well, what's going on? And it's not the Sabbath. Why are you taking off to go see the man of God? And she says, don't worry about it. It's all good. Everything's going to be good. It's like she already had that faith that he would take care of things, I think that's pretty cool.
Right.
Like she's already saying, I already know it's going to be good. And I already know that the man of God is going to help me fix this. And, she knew. She just knew. It's so awesome.
Yeah. Maybe also she recognized the power of words. Like she didn't want to speak the words of his death,
Right. Yeah. I didn't think of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because there is something like a confirmation of bad news or of bad events.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like there's a period of time to be able to reverse it. If you don't get a second witness to it.
I might be going off here, but this something I've been thinking about the past few days was that thought experiment where if someone walks into a room and somebody comes up to him and goes, "Man, are you feeling all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I feel fine." And he goes to the next guy, "Man, are you feeling all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And they continue to do it until maybe 15 minutes later, they're going to tell the boss, "Hey, I'm going home. I'm not feeling too well." So if you keep telling everyone that they're sick or that they have to wear something because they could be spreading it, everybody could be spreading it. You're sick, you're sick, you're sick. It just, I don't know.
Right. That goes back to the Israelites in the wilderness. You brought us out here to die. You brought us out here to die. Okay, fine. I brought you out here to die. You're all going to die. None of you are going to see the promised land.
You remember, was it Rachel, like, give me children or I'll die, and then later she dies in childbirth. You know,
Yeah.
careful what you're saying.
Right. Yep.
It's kind of interesting that they follow that story with the pot of stew. You know, there's death in the pot, and then
Yeah.
it gets fixed, and then it's like, okay, you can eat it now. So
Elisha the apothecary. I don't think it worked that way, but yeah, I'm just joking.
weird stories.
Spell everything correctly. Okay. Oh,
And again,
okay. So
people
Shunem.
with bread, yeah, and
Right.
bread, multiplying the bread.
I want to address what was that? Sky. Okay, so a Shunammite is someone from Shunem. It's a double resting place. It's one of the cities that was allotted to the tribe of Issachar. So she is an Israelite approaching Elisha here.
Wow, there's a lot of that in this one.
Oh, come on now. There we go. All right. So anything else from 4?
Poison pottage.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, goes from, he says, let the people eat. So down in verse 42, and so they give all this food out, and everybody eats, and just kind of leaves it right there.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, let's go to verse 5. Or, I'm sorry, chapter.
Chapter 5.
I'm getting Linism.
Right.
Let's see here. Chapter 5. Oh, so we got the king of Syria. He's a leper.
It's also a mighty man of valor.
Yeah. Yep. So it's very interesting. He tracks down this legend of a prophet in Israel that can heal him, or whom he can attend a healing from through. Then he gets all upset because he tells him, go wash in this river right here. Go wash in the Jordan. This dirty, muddy river.
Well, he was also mad because Naaman felt slighted because Elisha didn't come out to meet him.
Right.
He's like, and now you want me to go jump in that dirty river? What a way to rage.
Right.
But then he went and did it.
And he got healed. He was obedient. He was obedient, a non-Israelite, and got the healing.
It's interesting. His servants kind of had to convince him that they're like, just why don't you try it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if he told you to do something, some big feat, do handsprings down the mountain and then triple backflip and land on your feet, you'll be healed. You would have tried it.
Mm.
He was just offended. He didn't want to.
Right. Well, like Gwen says, if you're offended, you're offendable. All right. So Elisha's servant Gehazi. Well, notice first that Elisha took no payment. Right, and that goes along with in the New Testament where it says, freely you have received, freely shall you give. In my opinion. I mean, I see a correlation there. So, but his servant runs after Naaman and says, yo, yeah, we'll take some silver and a couple of changes of clothes. And then what happens?
Yeah, he took on the curse of leprosy because of the greed.
I'm sorry? Your mic's kind of gone dead.
Oh, I said I had to mute for a second because my dog was freaking out. Said he took on the curse of the leprosy because of his greed.
Still really quiet.
Speak up!
Like the old
Speak up!
Nintendo games, just blowing your mic. All that dust out of there.
Did you brush your teeth?
I did.
So, because he took money for it, now he's got leprosy. And then it says, what? Unto you and your seed forever. Not only are you going to be a leper, all your descendants are going to be lepers.
So it's
You're
interesting.
fired.
A curse, basically a curse being transferred through clothing, material possessions. We've seen blessing transferred through clothing and garments, right?
Right?
We see
Yeah.
curse being transferred.
Right. Well, Elisha got that double portion of Elijah's spirit.
From the mantle.
And in the New Testament, some of the disciples, after Jesus was resurrected, the people would touch their too and receive healing. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Right. And they're is it Peter touching their garments? Or Paul touching like a cloth, and then they would be healed, like if they touched a handkerchief of them.
Certainly, the woman with the bleeding touched Jesus, the hem of his garment, and was healed.
Right. All right. Let's go to chapter 6.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's okay, Robot Man.
Yeah, sound like you're on the moon.
This is your pilot speaking.
I have a rusty old axe head somewhere in my backyard that was left here before.
Right.
I always look at it and think of Elisha's axe head. Well, it wasn't Elisha's, but it was the servant's.
Oops. There we go.
It's kind of a funny story to have in here, but it also makes me think of the fish that brought up the drachma in its mouth. It's like God can bring things up, provide when we can't.
Want to try to let them out?
Wonder what the symbology of the stick is, though. Like you cut off a stick threw it in the water and it made the axe head float?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Must have been stuck on some seaweed and that just dislodged it. But then I think of the tree that they threw in the bitter water and it made the water sweet too.
Right, and that's
Right.
something. At least here in the desert, you can take certain types of cacti and throw them in some nasty, gross, dirty, filthy water. In the
Voila.
course of a couple of hours, it'll clean it.
Didn't who was it's a big name. He was fighting with his uncle Laban, and he did something with the sheep, and it turned the sheep to
All
a
right.
stripe.
You know,
was
peeling
Jacob.
off the bark on the wood.
Yep.
That was weird.
Yeah,
Right.
that was definitely strange.
My dogs chew on sticks all the time, and their colors haven't changed yet. Just saying.
Right?
Got to use the right sticks, Landon.
Yeah, this is true.
Try the sycamore, not the eucalyptus.
I don't have anything until verse 22. I find it interesting that the king of Israel asks Elisha, "Shall I smite them?" And he says, "No, feed them. Give them food and water and let them go to their master."
Keep those coals on their head.
Yeah, that's what it made me think of.
That's what it made me think of too.
They must have been feeling kind of stupid about this, right?
Right?
Unless they were too stupid to figure out how stupid they were. Oh,
Let's see. And then, so then, king of Syria besieges Samaria. And then verse 26 through 29, you got the woman talking about eating her son.
selling pigeon poo.
Yeah, they were eating pigeon poo too.
Yeah.
But or dove
My
poo.
dog does that.
You couldn't catch the dove?
To keep them alive so they can eat their food.
Yeah.
You figure you could eat dove one day, or you could keep eating the poo.
Yeah.
But then you got to feed the dove. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Well, the thing is, the doves have free access in and out. And how was the seed preserved during the flood? And in the birds, in their poop. So,
Like some kind of probiotic for them.
well, they probably are able to go through the poop and get the seeds, is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
That's what I thought of.
Mmm.
All right, let's
If
move
you-
on. First.
Torch.
Yeah.
Dove-
Seems that dove's poop has been used for a lot of things throughout the ages.
Right?
What's up
Sure, we
with
could
that,
sell facial to those Beverly Hills people.
right?
Right.
And the geishas.
What's that perfume you're wearing?
Ooh, de poo. Okay. Anyways. So these horrible things are happening. Elisha prophesies the death of the king and his servant. So then we get to chapter 7.
You shall see it with your eyes, but you shall not eat of it. I think that was pretty powerful.
Right? Now, is there a significance to them making this discovery through these 4 lepers?
Do tell. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just thinking it's kind of strange because the lepers are they're outcasts, right? Remember, they have to be set out away from everybody. So I would imagine most people go out of their way to avoid them because they're unclean.
Hmm.
And yet
Mask
they,
on.
yeah, they gave them, they had information that was vital in saving their city.
I like that they were just having a grand old party. You know, it's like, woohoo! We can
Right?
look at this, a feast. And then finally they're like, we should share.
Right?
Although I wonder how many people they gave leprosy to after that because they were there first. I don't know. Hopefully not.
Right?
Share.
They went on trying all everybody else's clothes. But I think it's kind of, there's, I think maybe there's a lesson in that. There's something they have something to offer, even if we think they're unclean and they're dirty and icky.
You weren't afraid to die.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were dead anyways. We're either going to starve to death or be killed. So, what if
You
we
got
got to
nothing to
lose?
lose.
This is the way I see it. It's more of a, we don't got anything to lose, so let's go for it, man. And then they go down there and it's like, wow, we've got everything. Ah, I see.
But
Okay,
I like how they corrected themselves,
right? Yeah, I was trying to figure out where in Scripture man was seeing the invisible man. He's like, what? What person isn't invisible? I'm like going through. I don't see that.
Horses and chariots of fire.
Yep. Here, we'll do this. We'll do that. Okay. Ta-da! All right. Anything else on chapter 7?
I just thought it was crazy that he sent the noise of armies, to make them flee. That's other parts in Scripture too where he's done that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually seems to be a lot of it coming up.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. All right. I'm not sure why that came up, Margaret, but okay. Actually, you should make some masks out of that. You could probably sell a whole bunch right now. Burlap mask. What? What do you mean? Come on, Michelle. You could start your own fashion. Now I've got dumb jokes stuck in my head. Okay. Yeah, Lynn, you're muted. So are you, Michelle.
Well, I have to be because I have a child in the background making all this noise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same here.
And I don't even know what I said, so let's just skip it.
All right, perfect. Warm and cold at the same time. All right. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about today?
Where did y'all say real quick that they send a noise? Where was that at?
That's in.
Because I just read
Verse
through it.
6.
Verse
The
6.
Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host.
The amplified noise of their feet.
Yep.
And God's done that before a few times, made the army think, oh, you're coming, there's big, huge armies coming. And
Right.
there was at least one other story where that happened, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it happens a lot. I mean, maybe not to this extent, but we explain away a lot of that. I understand that you do have some sort of heightened sense of awareness when you're around danger or other things, or like that thing where a mama knows when her baby's in trouble or about to hurt themselves.
Right.
Like all that it's a part of that, but we've kind of been trained to think about it scientifically, whereas it's like you're just more aware whenever you're in danger. Well, sure, but could it not be the spirit of God filling you, letting you know that where to look, how to walk, where to step in moments of extreme danger? So yeah, I'd argue she still does it all the time. It's we're just looking at the effects of it being done to those that are going up against his people.
Yeah, it says that they heard the noise of a great army, but we also know that Elisha's servant saw the great army. God opened his eyes to see it.
Mm.
I certainly have had spiritual warfare where, the person that was against me or, doing something wrong suddenly got real scared, like something's coming against me here. And it's like, I don't see it, but okay, God's doing something then.
Right.
Okay. Anything else? All right, let's let these people enjoy the rest of their wonderful day. Let's see. I wanted to get everybody's opinion real quick, because once we get into Daniel, there are 3 books of the Apocrypha that used to be called additions to Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you wanted to read those when we read Daniel, or just save all of the Apocrypha for the end.
I don't know. I haven't read.
Right? What?
Daniel's kind of wild.
say-
It is.
Right? Add them on to Daniel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then we can kind of look at them side by side. And
I'm
Right.
curious. I'd like to.
well, I might not remember at the end, I'd have to review Daniel before we even started that.
Are they large? Are they large books?
No, they're pretty small.
I mean, is it like less than one reading, like a chapter a piece? Small?
I think one is 3 chapters and one is like 2 chapters or something like that.
Why don't we read them right before? Because then
Bell and the Dragon is just like, what,
Well,
one
maybe-
chapter?
If we don't have Daniel to explain it.
well, but that's the thing. You read it either way. I guess you could read Daniel first and then those, but if you read those first, as we're reading Daniel, it would connect the dots, or vice versa. Either way. But
Wherever it's appropriate to put it in to make sense.
Right. Yes, Sky, they are in the Apocrypha. Yep, they are. Let's see here. I got some right here. And it's also on the. Interesting. Very interesting. Let's go with this. Oh, now it wants to freeze. Well, I'll look at it in a minute.
I'm gonna go get my book. I'll be back.
So what is it? We got Susanna, Belle and the Dragon, and something else. Yeah, Safari just decided to freeze up. So, well, it looks like most people are voting for it at the same time. So we will do that. All right, everybody, where'd Lingo? Bingo.
I think she went to go get the book.
Bingo. Oh, okay. We'll wait for that then. Now, I don't think it's written at, well, it might be written right after. I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, nothing. I was gonna say, because I had the headphones in my ear, my neighbor slammed the door and it made me jump because I couldn't tell where I was coming from.
Hey, Landon, I finally got to listen to your testimony on video the other day, and pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing that, and I can relate to definitely some things that you've dealt with too. So
Yes,
love to
ma'am.
talk to you some more sometime.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. There's a lot more to it, but that's yeah.
Now, there we go. Huh.
Right.
It's almost like they removed it.
Matt, I'm kind of fascinated with your basement there. It's sort of hobbit hole like. What is that?
It's actually not my basement. It's actually the house I built out here.
It's actually my house.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
it's kind of curved walls.
Yep, one side. Yep,
Neat.
I'm adding on to it right now, actually.
Okay, here we go. The prayer of Azariah.
Oh yeah.
So the whole Apocrypha is 1st and 2nd Ezra, Tobit, Judith, additions to Esther, which is chapter 10, verse 4 on. Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiasticus, not Ecclesiastes, but Ecclesiasticus, Baruch, the letter of Jeremiah, prayer of Azariah, Susanna, Bel and the Dragon, prayer of Manasseh, and then 1st and 2nd Maccabees, which 1st and 2nd Maccabees historically falls in between the time where Micah leaves off and the first of the New Testament starts. So it's they're historical books, and you really get a good insight, in my opinion, on just how the priesthood became even more corrupted and became a political appointment rather than.
Well, in the Feast of Lights, you don't even know where that comes from without reading Maccabees.
Yeah.
Feast of Lights.
Mm-hmm.
And so, did you list Judith and Wisdom in there? Are you showing those
The what?
on Judith? The books Judith and Wisdom. Are you showing those in your list?
Yep, up at the top, Judith, additions to Esther, Wisdom of Solomon.
Okay. No, this just says Wisdom. It doesn't say Wisdom of Solomon, but that might be what it is.
Right?
I'm gonna go look.
All right, so let's let these people go. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Landon. Thank you, Matt. Hey, please share this with everybody. Share, like, subscribe, as Matt would say. The cool thing is, if we get to 1,000 people subscribing, then we can take on some other projects because YouTube actually promotes you after that. So we got some things planned that we would like to do, but we need more people to do it. It's just the way it works. So anyways, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Blessings.
See you guys.
Bye.
Oh, I forgot to hit in broadcast.
Um,